Hi, I'm Marleen Maltby. I am the fashion designer for Marleen Maltby Designs. I live in Vacaville, California. I've been a sewer since I was in the 7th grade. I was born into a sewing family, so that helped, but you find out when you're making that circle skirt with the waistband and zipper and gathers, you either like it or you don't, and I fell in love with it. So from then on, I've sewn all my clothes. I've sewn wedding dresses, I've sewn prom dresses, men's suits, etc. But it's hard to make a living at fashion, so I became an interior designer for 35 years. So after I retired from interior design and I decided to go back to my passion, which is fashion, I started Marlena Maria Sportswear, plain and simple. Easy care, easy wear, women can travel with it, and I designed it for women of a certain age. And that's women who want to hide a few bumps and bubbles and wrinkles and rolls and et cetera, and that's what Marlena Maria is about. So I started doing trunk shows, art shows, private shows, and the private shows, the trunk shows, is the best venue for me, because then women can feel intimate with it, they can come and bring their girlfriends, they can have a glass of wine, and they can have a good time with it. So when the call came for the shelter in place, and being of a certain age, I'm definitely going to shelter in place, I thought I'd have lots of time to create more fashions. I've got a lot of fabric that needs to be dealt with, I have a lot of ideas. I started 2 projects. I wasn't feeling it. I felt like, why am I doing this in this time of craziness? This is just not right. And then the call came for masks, and I knew that's what I was going to be doing for a long time, and that's what I have been doing. The call first came out for healthcare providers. So several of us put the call out, and we did it. Then the call out came out for me for comfort keepers, and they wanted 200 masks. Now we're getting beyond the 20, 30, 40, 70, we're getting into the hundreds. And at this point I knew I cannot do this alone, and so I started a Facebook page called Marleen's Mask Makers. And seamstresses came out of the woodwork, and they told others, and the next thing you know, we had a venue for supply chain, for resources, for needs, etc. It's been tremendous, just tremendous. I know we've made in the thousands. And then I get a call out from a very good friend, mask maker Libby Clark, who she and I shared the same affinity for New Mexico, that the Navajo Nation was in deep, dire distress. And there was a call out for masks. So I researched who, where, if so, why, how many, etc. And true enough, found out where to go, the main headquarters, and started sending masks. And I've kind of put the focus on children's masks, because I think no one's paying attention to them, and the way the culture is with the Navajos, they all live together. So grandma, kids, they all need a mask. It isn't age specific in this. So we're making masks for the Navajos. I send off a box a week of a minimum of 100. I think I'll have close to 200 this week. Several women have joined me in this, and it's been tremendously fulfilling in a time like this, when you feel like you're truly making a difference with your one simple skill. So now my house has become a mask making factory. I have gone from my really nice detail, believe me, I'm so detailed I'll rip out a seam 5 times to get it right, to mass production. And mass production takes place all over the house. It starts in the laundry room, because I have to wash all the fabrics, and some of it come out gnarled mess, and so then I have to press the fabrics. Not always, but sometimes. And then we move to the cutting room. So now go to the cutting room. So now we're in the cutting room, also known as my dining room. And that's what you do when you're a seamstress. You take over whatever you can surface-wise to do your cutting. Fortunately, I have a very large dining room table, so I'm able to lay out everything. And as you can see here, I have massed, organized chaos. I know where everything is, and it's going to stay this way until I'm through with it. Unfortunately, I have a husband who's not only so understanding and supporting, he actually helps me because he cuts the wires for the mask, which is great. So what we start with is the fabric. People give me fabric. I never know what I'm going to get. This piece is been cut out, as you can see. But I am very miserly when it comes to cutting, and I want to use every amount of fabric that I have. So I take my patterns, which I've made. In this case, a child is a 7x6. I figure out what's the best, how can I can't get 3, but I can get, okay, I'm going to go this way, which is basically folding the fabric in half. Take this little guy and I just start flipping it. There you go. Cut off what I know I can't use. All right, now I'm going to do the underside of the mask, and these are 3-layer masks. They are all cotton, except for the Pellon interlining, which is that interwoven that allows even less particles to go through. So what I do with this one, it's really easy. Do that, and do the slash. Bam. For the middle of the mask, we've been using Pellon, which is this, of various weights. This is a lighter weight, which I'm using for the children because it's not as much bulk on their face. I was really lucky in that I was gifted piles, bags of these pre-cut, I tell them what size, pre-cut Pellon pieces from who I call the Hula Sisters, because they're hula dancers and their costumes were made out of Pellon. So when one of my Rotary mates heard that I needed it, she says, would this help? And it's been one of the biggest things in the supply chain, because that's been an issue, is finding parts of the mask, from the fabric to the elastic to the wire to the ties. Everything is a part, and suddenly 2 months ago you couldn't buy elastic. I ordered some, I received it about 3 weeks ago, and in the meantime I made ties, and this is a made tie. It starts out as a long strip. You have to press it in half, press it in again, then stitch it. It took as much time to do this as to make the whole mask. So then a girlfriend and one of my mask makers, Martha, said, oh, cut up t-shirts. And my life changed. So I talked about the elastic shortage, which at the beginning then you had to get creative, make your own ties, do whatever. What I have found is that I don't like the elastics when I'm sending them away to people's faces who I don't know the sizes of, which in this pretty much everybody I'm doing it for, unless it's a personal friend and acquaintance, I needed something generic, and the ties are the most generic. Elastics, the generic elastic on me is too big, and I know on children it won't fit right. You need to have it snug. Now for those who are tie challenged, as is my husband, then you need elastic. However, the elastic over his ears keeps flipping out his hearing aid. So everything has its drawbacks, but I find that the ties are the most user-friendly of all of the different ways to do it. And this is how you do it. You take a rotary cutter. This is my steel ruler, which is about 1 inch wide, and I line it up after having cut the band off the bottom, and you do that. But you do this over and over and over again. I usually do. It doesn't have to be precise. You can see that side was bigger. I just roll and I roll and I roll. And I do this all the way up the shirt. I even do the sleeves because I can get about 3 more ties just out of a sleeve. and it takes 4 ties per thing. So I'm just going to do this. Actually, I'm going to do this, as you can see, and I will show you how a tie works. So you open it up, which I have. I like my children's ties to be at least 12 to 13 inches, and so I see how many ties can I get. Okay, this will be a 3-tie shirt with some left over. And this is how you make a tie. You ready for the magic? Bam! We have a tie. Done. So now we're at station number 3, which is my kitchen table. And at this point, I'm going to assemble them to get ready to sew them. And I would say this process takes the longest of any of the processes, is this one right here. But it's the one that puts it all together. So it's probably part of the most important process. It's also where my husband makes the wires cuts the wires for the nose piece. So he assembles here and I assemble on the other side. Okay, so it's assembly line process like any mass production thing would be, which is how the whole assembly is. It's all assembly line. Efficiency is the name of the game, so I've got the pellon, I've got the front piece and the back. But what I always find out is when I get here is that, they're not exactly all the same, and so I need to do some trimming and make them all the same. And it's not a precise science. They can be a little smaller, they can be a little bigger, and nothing is going to be impacted. So then I take that, I take my magic ties, which I haven't cut yet. I usually do it here. Cut them in half. These are really long, I can do that. And making sure I've got it on the lengthwise, even though this is metal, I start the process of pinning. I use big-headed pins, always have, always will. Can't imagine using those little flat-headed things. How do you grab them? And they need to be sharp. So I fold, as you can see, I'm folding in the tie so that it rolls inward as it should roll. Ta-da. Last one. Do I measure? No. Do I eyeball? Yes. Does it matter? Yeah, not so much. Okay, then I put the back piece on top of that. Pin in place. I only pin in 4 places. This way I know where to stop and start, because I'm going to leave an opening here to turn it inside out, and it doesn't matter which side. I just don't want the opening on this side, because then when I make the pleat, I'll sew up the opening. There's a whole science. And see right there, I need to adjust, of course, because that's just the way it goes. And I'll just pin these nice. Okay, we're ready for sewing. I do that 10, 15, I never know how many I really have cut out. This is probably a dozen. So I'll do that 12 times. And then I head to the sewing machine. Now we started the sewing process, which is pretty straightforward. You just sew seams, you sew over the pins. You try not to hit them with your needle or break your needle. You try not to get the straps caught in the seam. Other than that, no science to it. I get a ripple in it like that. No big deal. Now I'm back where I started, but I'm leaving this open because I got to turn this inside out. And we're done. Next. So now all the pins are out. Now I stack them because I got to cut threads. That part of the fashion designer does not let go. I do not like threads out. This is when I did use the big scissors. I can mass cut. And there we go. Then I do clip art. And I'm doing this so that when you turn it inside out, you have a crisp corner. So now we're going to go to my next station, which is my favorite because it's my rocking chair, where I'm going to turn all of these inside out with my little pointy thingy, my bamboo pointer that I've had for probably 45, 50 years, and that's my next phase. So now we come into the turny-outy phase, and I hope that I have not caught the ties into a side seam, because it's not the end of the world, but son of a gun, the first one I pull out, I've done exactly that. I have caught the tie right there. However, this is an easy fix. I'm just going to snip it across there and free the tie. Now if it was in the middle and down in, probably not going to happen. Okay, we've all been turned inside out. Now I take my pointy thingy and I make it nice and make sure the ties are out at the ends. That's it. That little hole that I left open allows me to do that and put the wire in. You can see that some are pointy, some aren't. So now we're going to press everything down flat so that we can get a nice closed seam, hard edge where we're going to be stitching here on our pleats. So I'm using my Panasonic cordless iron, which I will tell you I absolutely love, which I always forget to turn on, and so I have to wait after I get here. But it's just a quick iron, and you can see I'm just getting the seam down quick, quick, quick. So the next thing we have to do is cut the wire for the nose pieces, which is going to go at the top for the little kid's nose. I use an 18 gauge for the kids. It's pliable and yet it gives some strength to it. It's not too big for their noses. Everybody uses different things. Everything from pipe cleaners to, I don't like using paper clips. I find it too heavy. But my friend Libby found that the ties, this is like enclosures for coffee bags. You know, you pinch them around the coffee bag like that. Well, she found that they are perfect. So for an adult, I really like using these. You can cut them in half for children, but I've got the wire going, so I'm using that. But these are working really well too, and very inexpensive. So I cut basically, 5 inches, 6 inches or so down there, and I snip it, and you have to crimp the edges. So this is something my husband will say, what can I do? And I'll say, go cut wires, and he goes and cuts wires. And then that just fits across the top like that. So I will be cutting wires for all of these pieces because I don't have enough made. Slit through the opening there. And this is where you have to finesse it. You have to feel where the wire is, kind of get it in the middle, and then pin it in place. And if you like my nice manicure, no, I did not go out and have it done. Many years ago, I bought one of those nice little UV light things, and sporadically I will do my own nails, although they don't last as long, but nowadays, I'm real happy to have that. Alrighty, zipper foot's on. My only thing here is that I don't want to run over a wire, because that breaks the needle. And as you can see, I guide it with my finger so that I don't. I know where the wire is. Clip the thread, put it down, back up. Feel for the wire, don't want to hit it. There it is. Right, wires are in. Some threads are clipped. It's back to the ironing board to put the pleats in. So now we're at the pleat phase, which is really easy. I don't measure, I just mark. And the nice thing about working at an ironing board is that the ironing board has holes because of the way the metal is woven. So you can just pin into the hole, it holds it, and then all I do is this. And I put my pins pretty far back so that I don't have to take them out while I'm sewing them, and I don't run over them with my sewing machine. Bam, one done. For a children's mask, I just do 2 pleats. For an adult's mask, we do 3. So I've heard some discussion that people say you shouldn't be putting pins in your mask. The truth of it is, cotton is a kind of fiber that will go back. Either through just normal cotton wear or when you wash it, etc. So it's not going to hurt the integrity of the mask. These are not medical grade masks. They are designed for home use. I've used them for home health care. That depends upon the kind of inner lining that I put in it. I will put in a heavier Pellon if I know it's going to be done more for home health care or that. But if it's for personal use, then we can be a little more lax with what goes into it because of our supply chain. You know, it's like the N95s. You can only use those for medical as it should be. And with the really good Pellons, I'm saving those for my medical people as well. So you wear the mask to keep the propulsion close to you, not to someone else. And if everybody did that, then we would have mitigated propulsions of spew out there. So now we're back at the sewing machine for the last time. where I'm sewing down the pleats and encasing that side seam and hoping I don't hit the wire, which I was really happy with that go around. There was no broken needles because I buy them in the 10 pack. I've gone through so many. And I make sure that I encase both sides of pleats. Yes, it's all good. All right, so now we're cutting off more threads, taking out more pins. And at this point, this is how I lay everything out. And I have all the wires pointed in the same direction so that when I ship it, it's all the same. All right, now I take the pins out. Okay, I have cut off all the threads, got everything on the right way. I do a quick press. I mean, literally this kind of press with my wonderful iron. And now comes the fun part, because now I get to make the ties. I like it when they flip. That means it's a good one. And then I check to see if they're not too long, they're all good, and they're all good. Bundle them up. I put them over in a pile that is growing to go to the Navajo Nation. And this, my friends, is how you turn a fashion atelier into a mask-making factory. Now that we've completed our session here on mask making in mass, and you'd like to become a part of this movement, it's not really even a movement, it's what we just need to do in this time of need. And you're a seamstress. I even have an extra sewing machine. You can go on to my Facebook page, Marleen's Mask Makers. Join us, find out what our needs are, if you need supplies. If you want to join the Navajo Nation effort, you can contact me there and I can add you to the people that are mailing with me. So I hope this has given you some insight on how you mass produce masks in this time of need.